Welcome to the Beyond Physio podcast, where we help you move, excel, and inspire others on your journey to your next level with knowledge and advice from experts and testimonials from our like-minded community.
Welcome to the Beyond Physio podcast. I am Dr. Jerry Yu, owner and founder of Next Level Physio. Today, my special guest is no other than Coach Pat Naughter, the head coach of Montclair State University's women's soccer team. Welcome, Coach Pat.
Thanks for having me, Jer.
I first want to ask, what is it with these podcast pants that you have?
Well, this is my new Adidas podcast pants. I just broke them out. Special occasion. I wanted to make sure there was something that wasn't wrinkled, and then my son put banana all over them. So.
Amazing. Did he put the handprints there?
Yeah. They're everywhere.
Nice and crusty, caked.
They were clean upon putting them on this morning.
From one parent to another, my girls are now big and thankfully potty trained in high school. I can tell you it gets better. So
Please God.
Yes. So Coach Pat, I want to hear, and our audience wants to hear, your history with the sport of soccer, otherwise known worldwide as football.
Yeah. So growing up, I had two older brothers who played. My father was an Irish immigrant. So growing up, there wasn't baseball, there wasn't football, there wasn't basketball. We were playing soccer, which made us pretty unique, and played my whole life growing up. Got to high school. I went to Bloomfield High School. And
Local guy.
Yep, local guy. Played there, and growing up, there wasn't as much club soccer. Mm-hmm. It wasn't as well organized as it is now. So you typically played for your town. You played a little bit of, they called it select soccer, where you'd take some kids from a couple different towns and they would play a couple tournaments over the summer. But I was pretty much playing with the same kids from 5 years old to 18, and then when I graduated high school, came time I wanted to play in college, and was fortunate to be able to play at Montclair State.
Wow.
Yeah. So I didn't know exactly what I wanted to study. I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do, but it made a lot of sense for me to stay close to home. They were really good at the time, and that was a completely different world for me. Like the adjustment to going to play in college.
Ooh, talk about it.
Yeah, so I don't know how it looks on camera, but I'm really ripped up right now. But at 18, thanks. But at 18, I wasn't athletically on par with some of the guys, some of the 22-year-olds I was playing with. Yeah, I was a skinny kid. I was fit. I could run all day, but they had muscles and mustaches, and they were like big guys. When I started college, I was 17.
Yeah.
So not because I was really smart, just like a unique birthday kind of thing. So it was a huge adjustment. My first year, I should have been cut from the team, but they kept me around. And then my second year, I could have been cut, but I came in really fit, and the coaching staff, the team kind of took a liking to me. But I was last guy off the bench. I played 40 minutes that year, and it was in a blowout game. Like wow. I didn't get a lot of playing time. And then my junior year, it all kind of clicked a little bit. I was picked up kind of the tactical understanding of the game. We were really good. We were 8th in the country. We could have won a national championship that year.
I had no idea MSU was that good.
Yeah. Excellent team. My roommate, not because of me, my roommate was an All-American. we were loaded. Got a little unlucky in the NCAA tournament, but me personally, I came off the bench. I didn't start a game. If we had a lead late, I would get on and try to make sure a 1-0 lead became a 1-0 win. But so not, I wasn't never an all conference guy, never anything like that. So psychologically, that was a little difficult, because in high school, I was the man. I was the all county player, like all state guy. And then you go to college, and it kind of took me a while. And then in my senior year, towards the end of the year, we weren't as good. I was playing a little more. I hope that's not a correlation, but I went in for a tackle, and I shattered my kneecap. And that was the end of me playing at any decent level. The coaching staff at the time kept me around. An assistant coach. I was dropping cones and collecting balls and making sure the gear was ready.
Oh, nice.
But that's when I kind of learned how the game's organized, like why you run certain things at practice, and how do you scout an opposition and figure out, this is where we can attack them. This is what we have to defend on them. And it turns out that injury was what allowed me to get into coaching and understand
Blessing in
that.
disguise.
Absolutely. Because I don't know, it's not like I was going to be a work in finance or anything like that, but I ended up kind of giving me a purpose. I ended up getting a teaching degree. I was a special ed teacher for a little bit, but I always really loved coaching. I love being around. I've always been on teams. I like being a part of teams. I like dealing with players and kind of helping them navigate their roles and trying to link that, making sure everybody knows they're important to a larger cause. And fortunately, years ago, I got a phone call that Montclair State was looking for a women's soccer coach, and I tricked them into hiring me. So the rest has been history.
That trickery has lasted since 2010.
2010.
Till now.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are you basically a tenured coach?
So it's not, there's no such thing as tenure, but we have multi-year contracts and that kind of stuff. It's hard to fire me. Obviously, that's why they give you.
Well, for many reasons, Pat. But what's cool is that not only have you been a coach that long, but you also took your team to several victories. Yeah,
we've been good. And I know it sounds like coach speak or trying to be humble or whatever, but it's a much different college than the one I went to in 1996.
Tell us about that.
It's a second largest school in the state. There's 23,000 students. We offer 300 majors, minors, and concentrations. So if you want to become a PT, it's a great place to go to school. If you want to get into education, it's a great place to go to school. We can attract a lot of high-level student athletes. And our location is as good as anywhere in the country for a college. It's a safe place. There's a lot going on. Proximity to New York City.
Yeah. Great food.
Right? Like you have a million restaurants.
Yeah.
It's easily accessible. So like if you're a South Jersey kid, you can get here in an hour and a half, 2 hours, far enough where you feel like you're in college, but close enough because you're still an 18-year-old kid and you want to get home. So there's a lot of advantages that allows us to get kids, and we've been fortunate enough to find great kids who want to work hard and be part of a team.
That's great. And it sounds like because I think MSU is Division III, right?
Yep.
So you definitely would attract more academic talent too, just because these are kids who understand that it's more than the game of soccer for them. It's going to be where they go in life.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I love, the Division III model, where I've coached club players who go and play Division I, and then they'll complain about like, hey, I don't have free time. I don't get to be a college kid. And I say, well, they're giving you $20,000 a year. Like they're going to want something in return.
Absolutely.
And with our group, I always say like there's nothing mandatory. I can't force you to do anything. Your decisions have consequences. If you want to be a great player, if you want to be a great teammate, here's how we do business. But if that's not for you, there's 471 other D3 schools in America. And maybe that is a better fit for you. But I think I've learned over the last 13 years that when I was a player, my coaches said, do this. And you didn't question it. But if you did, it was because I said so would be the answer. Because I said so doesn't fly anymore. You have to give them the why. You have to give them this is where it works. This is, this is why we operate. This is what I'm looking for you to do. And then make sure there's an understanding on their end as to why they're looking to do it.
I love that. I feel like definitely this generation, the last 15, 20 years, and it's a good thing, I think, to be questioned. It actually keeps coaches accountable. It keeps me accountable too as a physical therapist when I work with athletes. And when they're asking, why am I doing this? And I have to explain, well, because you can't only do this, we have to have you give you another option to be able to do that same movement.
Right.
Do you find that maybe in your own journey, having been an injured athlete, how did that mess with you mentally as far as like, did it sort of like have a lasting effect on the rest of your college career?
Absolutely. Like it for a while, I stopped going to school. Like I took a semester off. For me, the only reason I wanted to go to college was play college soccer. So, it wasn't, I didn't know what I wanted to do academically. I wanted to play soccer. That was the highest attainable level for me. And I grew up fortunate. Like my dad would take me to soccer games and I would see college soccer games and I would see high level high school games. And like I had aspirations. Like I knew who I wanted to be when I was growing up, like who I wanted. And having two older brothers was amazing. Like I sat and watched every one of their games. I would be at their practices just because, my parents didn't want to take more rides, right? And then you're sitting there and coaches let you jump into practices. So I was always playing up a level. And cool. That part, and then the backyard, there was a swing set that we used as a goal. Like that was what we did. For me, that was the focus. When that gets taken, you really have to recalibrate. Who am I? What am I about? What's important to me? And that wasn't a seamless transition. It wasn't like, now I will be, an educator. Like that wasn't not it. I was fortunate that I had a lot of people, especially at Montclair State, who were super supportive of that process. My family at the time had moved to South Carolina. So I was a young kid in an apartment, paying rent, it wasn't getting 4.0 GPA, like trying to figure out my way. And I had a great coach who looked after me and knew I still needed to be a part of a team and said like, hey, you should get into coaching. And he started getting me club soccer jobs as well to make a couple bucks doing it. And that I've never realized how important that was. That I had those people in my life at that time to kind of keep me on track. And then that kind of just like allowed me to catch my breath and like, okay, let's get a degree, right? Like I want to get a degree. I got a degree, turn that into a teaching job, turn that into more coaching jobs, and then boom, 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 onward and upward.
That's amazing. Pat, thank you so much for sharing that. I didn't realize that it had that much of an impact on you, having that time where the injury basically caused your soccer career.
Yeah.
How would you help other soccer players, maybe in their youth even, or maybe at the college level out there, who might be going through the same kind of despair because of an injury or because of some reason or another, they cannot continue to play and they've lost their identity as a soccer player?
So unfortunately, in my 13 years at Montclair and 25 years now coaching club soccer, I've been a part of that. Like I've seen career-ending traumatic injuries in person. It's a process. And that's where I think the first thing we need to be able to do is allow athletes to mourn a little bit. And
grief.
It's a loss of a relationship that was significant in your development and who you are and how you see yourself. And to kind of allow them that kind of reinforce that there are other sides that are really important to them that aren't the same notoriety. You don't end up in the newspaper for being a really good son or a really good brother, but if you score 2 goals against your rival, you might get the headline. And unfortunately, the headlines are how the kid in math class tries to identify you can become a little intoxicating.
Sure.
And that can kind of mess with you a little bit. But one thing I always try to do is make sure that kids know, even though this is the oldest they've ever been, it's not the oldest they're ever going to be, that there is more to life than, did I score 2 goals on Saturday?
Yeah, it's tough. I would imagine that sometimes you have to get other even services involved because it could really bring you down a downward spiral.
So that's one of the things I'm very proud of. One of our student athletes has started a chapter of the Hidden Opponent, which is a nationwide organization that helps student athletes deal with mental health issues and suicide prevention. And that recently has been an epidemic amongst college athletes. And we're starting to talk about it more, and we're starting to bring that more to light. And the services that are there for all students on campus it's night and day different than it was in 1996. Thank God.
Yeah.
But just even the willingness for people to talk about it. So at the time, I didn't realize that I was depressed that I couldn't play anymore. I didn't realize that I was depressed that I was walking around with a limp, that I was dealing with handicapped student services at the time.
Wow.
I was playing, and then a month later, I'm in an office for handicapped students.
Oh my gosh.
Like that was a what the heck is happening moment. And I had people there who were willing, and my family was great, and everybody was really supportive. I had great teammates at the time. Now I think it's they didn't have degrees on the wall.
Yeah.
And now the people have degrees on the wall, and we can, at least as a coach, I can at least point them in the right direction, give them a phone number that they can call.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I think what's great about you as a coach, Pat, is that you have the willingness to even go there. Sometimes, we get caught up in things and our attention is divided among all of our players, but you just being aware of it because of your own history, I think is a powerful testimony and a powerful resource in and of itself to athletes out there, and especially to the team that you serve.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think that's a byproduct of the best part about me playing soccer wasn't, I didn't earn any money doing it. I just got a bunch of surgeries.
Yeah, that's right.
So
you cost the sport.
yeah, exactly. It's actually a really bad relationship when I look back, pretty abusive and that. But I got a lot of great relationships out of it, a lot of great friendships, a lot of people who, and some bad ones, like some people who love you when you can help them win a game, and some people who love you if when they're giving their kids some playing time. But for the majority, they're great people who care about you as an individual and your health and well-being. And that's something that I always look at with the game. The game's the game. But for me, it's just kind of like that opportunity to meet people and to build relationships and to learn from people and to share some knowledge and some experiences with them. And that's the part I'm very grateful for.
That's great. Now, as a successful coach, Coach Pat, what do you think are a couple of key elements that do lend to creating a very successful soccer program at the collegiate level?
So it's interesting because I don't know what makes a good soccer team. I know what makes Montclair State a good soccer team. And I'm pretty unique in that this is where I grew up. This is where I played. So when I was 9 years old, I ball boyed games at Montclair State.
No way.
Yeah, true
You
story.
have long, deep roots in here.
Yeah. I think that's a child labor violation, but statute of limitations have to pass. But that's where I went to camp, right? That was me and my brother would ride our bikes to that field and drag the goal on and get kicked off, right? So that's what I know. This is the place that I know that means a lot to me. The way I look at soccer is the ultimate team sport. Even though last World Cup, everybody wants to hype up Leo Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. The media looks for superstars.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the influence a single player can have on a game is limited. The influence a team can have is massive. So for me, it's being able to identify, okay, this is going to be this group's strength. This is what we naturally do well. This is how I can sell it to the kids. If we're able to do A, B, and C, defensively, we'll be tough to get broken down. That way we don't give up goals. That way we're in every game. And then offensively, you always need that one or two kids who can score a goal, who can make a play, who can unbalance an opposing team. But for the most part, we look at it and say, okay, if we can just get more possessions than the other team, you have a freedom to fail then. Then it's not like, oh my gosh, I'm scared to lose the ball. If you know you're going to have the ball 10 times more than the other team, try to make a play. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You got 9 more opportunities. And for me, taking the stress off of execution and just make it, okay, we're going to outwork people. We're going to do our job because my job isn't going to make me a great player. My job is going to help you win. So then that camaraderie and chemistry all comes into play there. And that's something that has taken me a while to I think I've always been doing it, but realize I've been doing it, is making sure they realize there's a higher purpose involved. And it's not just about how do we win this game? It's about why is the way we're going to try to win this game important? What can we take with it? How is it going to help us and help our teammates in the long run? And for me, that's the value of having college athletics, being able to teach people those lessons.
That's so powerful. I just thought you were just a regular coach, and now I see you as this wise, Sage,
Handsome.
so handsome, very fit, soccer coach.
Wait till we lose a couple games. I'm not that wise. I'm not that.
We'll have to have you back for an interview on that. So what's it feel like to be a losing coach, Pat?
Yeah, exactly.
So it sounds like you're very selective then on who you want on your team because of that team dynamic that you're really trying to push for that season or for that year.
And the best teams we've had. So when I took over the program, we put together a recruiting class that was, in hindsight, unbelievable. Like multiple All-Americans, multiple All-Conference players, a few of the best players in school history. And at the time, it's not like everybody else missed them. You know, like they were just a group of kids who loved each other. And now those kids are, you know, when I was recruiting, they were 17 years old, you know, they're high school seniors. And now they're moms and they've been in each other's weddings and they're, you know, they know each other's babies at this point, right? So it's like those friendships and those relationships were formed. It kind of led me to believe like there's very few 17-year-olds that are going to change the way we operate. But if we can find kids who really like working hard and are humble and really care about their teammates, they have a chance to become real special 21-year-olds. And I referenced before how club soccer has become a lot more organized.
Yeah.
That's very good for the most part. It could also be very bad, where kids can hop from one team to another if they don't like their situations. Coaches can hop from one group to the next group to the next group. There's not a ton of loyalty. There's not a ton of, unfortunately, there's not a ton of like, okay, things aren't going well now, I'm going to work my way through it. That, and I know I sound like the old man, like get off my lawn, you know, kids today and all that stuff. But growing up, you played with a group of kids and like there wasn't an idea like I was going to go play for a different town. Like this was my town. This is where I grew up. This is what I was about. So for me, finding kids who are loyal to their teammates, who don't, you know, it's always a red flag when I see a kid who's played for 7 different club teams. Like,
yeah,
you know, and now kids are, the transfer portal is alive and well. And what you hear in Division I football is happening in D3 women's soccer as well. Kids are bouncing from school to school. Coaches, if kids don't get along with their coach, coaches get removed now. Like it's a different world. It's a different landscape. So for me, I don't want to deal with that. I don't, you know, I don't want it to be like a episode of The Bachelor. Like I don't want infighting. I want kids who want to help each other become great. And that's where in the recruiting process, we don't promise kids like, hey, you're going to score 35 goals and you're going to, you know, it's never going to rain. And like, there's going to be bad days. And then what are you going to do during those bad days? And what are you going to be about? And it's important that you have some grit and have some fortitude to grind through those things, because ultimately, if your go-to is bounce, right? Like I had a bad day at work, I'm going to go find a different job. You're never going to be happy. You're just going to always be moving around. Like, oh, I don't like my backyard. Like landscape, bro. Like don't move, right? Like don't move. Like you've got to fix your issues there. That part of it, when we've had successful teams, we had kids who could do that. We had kids who cared about each other, that wanted each other to be successful, that would sacrifice for one another, who would sacrifice short-term for long-term. When we haven't been successful, we've been really talented individually, but lacked that piece of it.
Interesting. So this really sounds like a life thing right now, just because I feel like a lot of people don't want to embrace the suck, and they don't want to embrace the discomfort or even like the conflicts potentially. Yeah. And so then they just escape by going to another club, right? In this case for soccer. And it sounds like for some people I've met in life that that's the case as well, where they're not ready. Like I would say in our generation, where we had to tough things out because there weren't many options, number one. Number two, because it was the right thing to do to try to work through things together. Right. But do you feel like that's maybe part of the generational thing too?
I do. I think it's also, you know, I think there's also a lot of disloyalty where there's a lot of people who I feel very comfortable where my club team and Lee Glover, who he's a guy who has been with me and has stuck by me through some really, really challenging times in my personal life. And he's somebody who I think is very supportive of me, not me, the soccer coach, and my resume and the blah, 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 blah. He wants me to be happy and healthy and successful. And my athletic director at Montclair State, Rob Chesney, is similar in that. And he's a guy I've known since I was a kid. He was my college soccer coach.
Wow.
And he was the guy who got me involved in coaching. And for me, it's really important to align myself with people who aren't just going to be there when you're winning trophies, who are going to be there when you're having a hard day and are willing to challenge you and willing to say like, hey, did you do the best you could have with that? Like that's important for growth. But at the same time, those are two guys who I know in particular are willing to take some heat for me. If they believe in me, they're willing to take some heat. And I think that allows me to take some heat from my kids sometimes.
For sure.
And back them up. And then I hope I'm going to get that back from them.
Right.
Which I do believe I do get.
And they'll pass it forward, pass it on.
That's
it. That's great.
And that's where I think everybody, coaches get fired a lot quicker than they used to. Seems like everybody gets fired a lot quicker than they used to. So, but that's where I think it's generational, but it's also kind of the way everybody thinks they can win a national championship right now. So it's like hard to win. So if you're not winning, fire the coach, get a new coach in.
Oh, wow.
You see it in pro sports, you see it in college, you see it in high school, you see it on the club level. We lost the game, fire the coach. We lost the game, go join a new team. Like everybody wants those quick successes as earned. It's hard. It takes a while. It's not linear.
No, definitely not.
Growth is not linear. Like there's
Never.
gonna be bad days, but like you said, embrace the suck, grind through it, and hopefully you can zone out and see, okay, long term it's gonna take a while.
That's tough, Pat. Are there any words of wisdom for any parents out there with youth soccer players, male or female, for when they start to consider getting recruited for college play? Are there a couple key things that these kids and parents should be aware of when they start going in the route of college play?
Yeah, so I think everybody's looking to validate how much they put into the youth development of the youth player, right? So the time, the money, all of that. And ultimately, I don't know if that's possible all the time. So, Pam and I are just starting on this journey, right? Not that Patty's playing any club soccer just yet. But for me, it's not going to be about his career and his development. It's going to be, am I putting him in front of great people? And then is he enjoying playing? Because as I said to you before, I probably learned as much getting kicked by my brothers in the backyard as I did from any coach I've ever played for.
Right.
Like there's no, just play. Right. And if your kid is happy and enjoying it and in a healthy situation, then they're going to become a better player. As far as picking the right program, I can attest that your college career doesn't always go according to plan. So does the place make sense if you break your leg tomorrow? Well, I rolled my ankle, I shattered my kneecap, I had every injury. I had less goals than surgeries. So what I can tell you is, thank God I went to a place where people cared about me. And not because I was a 3-time All-American. I wasn't. They cared about me because they care about people. And that for me was something that I try to pass on to my players and their families. Like, if you come here, I'm going to fight with you if I think you need to be fought with. Like, if I think you're making selfish, silly 18-year-old decisions that could affect 44-year-old you, I'm going to call you out on that. And if you're in a program that doesn't care about 44-year-old you, just cares about how many goals 20-year-old you can score, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
If you're in a place where somebody's worried about getting fired, you're in the wrong place, because they're not going to do the right thing. They're going to try to placate, try to keep everybody happy. It's hard to navigate that. It's really hard because most college coaches are really good salespeople. So they can take a dodgy product and make it look good. But go somewhere where there's been somebody there for a while, where they've shown sustained success, where they've shown that the freshmen become sophomores, the sophomores become juniors. If there's 13 new kids in, 13 kids out, and that tells you it's a culture that might be a little bit broken.
These are great questions to consider for families. I never would have thought that this dynamic occurs on the back end.
And ultimately, because it's hard to quantify.
Yeah.
Easy to quantify is graduation rate, number of wins, scholarship money, cost of attendance, average annual salary for graduates. All that stuff's absolutely 100% important. What's more important for me is, are kids going to be looked after? Are they going to be happy? Are they going to be healthy? Because happy cows make the best cheese, right? Like if you have a kid who's happy, they're probably going to be doing better academically,
overall,
soccer wise, and being safer than somebody who's, feels like I got to go here because this school gets you a better job than that school. For me, I didn't have a lot of choices between it's not like all the Ivies were knocking on my door. So for me, I didn't have to sweat those things. I went to the only place that really made sense to me and my family, and I lucked into a great decision.
I feel like because you've had such a long history with Montclair and being literally homegrown, that I feel like those opportunities came to you because you were in the right position at the right time too.
Yeah. No, so many people say, like, what advice would you what would you give me? I want to be a college coach. I'm like, I have no idea. Legit. Like, I don't know how I got here. I don't know. I couldn't get, now I probably could get a couple of jobs, but when I first started, like 30-year-old me, I don't know how I got the job. I didn't, like my coach was an administrator, said, "Hey, this job's opening up. What do you think?" I thought he was calling about a friend of mine. I didn't think it didn't make sense, but it did make sense. I didn't see it. I didn't realize that. I know Montclair State. I know the people. I know who's going to be successful there. That part of it I got. There's so many different paths in my life that led me to this job that, I don't know if it's the right word, but it was like serendipitous. It was the right word?
It is the right word, yeah.
No big deal.
You can argue fate, you can argue, being at the right opportunity at the right time, but I think also just that desire, I think, where you always knew you wanted to be in soccer and so involved in it, that I sometimes think that can manifest to these opportunities that become available to you.
Definite. Yeah.
So Pat, let's go back in time when you had your shattered knee.
Yeah.
And tell us about that recovery, because it wasn't, first of all, it's rare to get a shattered kneecap for anyone listening out there. And you went through a very prolonged recovery process. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So even before the recovery process, I can remember going to St. Joe's Hospital, and Dr. McInerney, the great surgeon, I remember him kind of going over what the game plan was. And he used the term like, okay, what we want to happen. And I just know when you're in surgery, like, you don't want to hear want to happen. Like I wanted
defined.
This is what we do. This to this, done. In and out. You're jogging home. Yeah. But he obviously had to paint a realistic picture. And remember him saying, like, they were gonna put all the bones back together and then fasten it with screws and wires. And I remember saying, like, okay. And he's like, if we can. And I remember, like, what do you mean if we can? And he's like, some of the bone might not be viable. And I remember being like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I'm a 20-year-old kid. And then I remember, so what's plan B? And that's when I learned what a cadaver was.
Oh my goodness.
And then I said, well, that sounds like, okay, just a dead person doesn't need the kneecap. Get that in. I'll take it. Let's go. Right. And I remember him saying, well, like, that kneecap wasn't built for you. So it might be a little different. That might lead to arthritis there. And then I said, well, what if neither of those work? And I remember him saying, like, well, they will. And I said, no, I know, but what if? And he said, we would fuse your shin to your thigh.
What?
And I remember being like, but then I couldn't walk. And he's like, so see you in a couple hours. I remember being like, Dr. Mack, what are we talking about, man? Like a 20-year-old kid.
Exactly.
You know? Like,
Invincible here.
and thank God he was able to put my kneecap together and screws and wires, and it was crazy. And then for 3 months, I was in a cast from my ankle to my hip, and they had to cut it open to take stitches out during that. So that wasn't comfortable, and I obviously had a ton of atrophy. And when they took the cast off, they cut the cast off, my leg was about the size of my arm.
Oh my gosh.
Again, for you, those of you at home.
Oh, this is a massive arm.
Yeah, but not a big leg if it's your leg.
I can't believe that.
So for me, that was like, and it didn't bend. It was straight. It like just hung off the table straight in the air. And I remember like, this isn't good. I had a slip soon after. I had 5 degrees of motion in a brace, and I had a slip.
Oh.
And they had to go back in and tighten some things up. And then they went in a third time to take the hardware off because the hardware was going through. But all told, I was less than 5 degrees of motion for about 6 months.
Oh my God.
And it was just stiff. And the athletic trainers, John Davis, the longtime Montclair State athletic trainer, helped me get that movement back in my knee by like he would sit on my back and jack my knee up, just crank it up.
Man.
And that was a lot of pain, and that was a lot of hard work. But I was super motivated because I thought I was going to be like Rudy. Like I was going to be like, it's going to be a Disney movie. I was going to come back. I was going to come
goal.
10 months. I'd be playing, scoring goals, win a national championship. And
great pipe dream.
Yeah. At the time I thought it was like, no doubt. This is what, this is why things happen. Everybody else kind of knew that wasn't realistic.
He didn't want to tell you.
Yeah, I was like on a cane in July and realized that preseason in August probably wasn't going to happen. But I got very dejected at that point. Like that. Then I didn't want to do rehab, and for the most part, I neglected it, and I was kind of just to the point where like, okay, I caught a bad break, no pun intended, and deal with it, and. I think growing up in an immigrant family, like you don't complain, and you think you got it bad. Everybody, you got a relative who's got it a little bit worse, and so you don't complain, and like, okay, now just go coach and be a teacher and go that route, and that's what we were going to do. And it's not until recently where, okay, now I'm a father and I want to keep up with my family, and I don't want to be the old fat guy.
That guy.
And I also like, it's not like I'm going to stop coaching and, and become an accountant. Like this is probably what I'm going to do. So if not now, I don't want to start like getting myself in shape when I'm 64. Like 44 is probably like, okay, I shouldn't have waited 24 years. So don't wait 34 years.
Exactly.
Like don't push off anymore. Like it's go time now.
That's awesome. The one question I wanted to ask you was, I know that you had some recent surgery for your meniscus.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to actually have been part of your rehab process recently.
Yeah.
But what was it like not being with Next Level? You had another practice you're with. We don't have to mention names.
Sure.
But the difference that you see in the quality of care.
So it's embarrassing, right? like it's embarrassing because it was like, okay, go to a place right down the street, and it's not getting a pizza. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going to order a pizza, if there's someplace that's convenient and it's cheap, you'll do it. And there's a high school kid making your pie. Like my knee and my healthcare, I should probably put more into it.
Invest a little more. Yeah.
Invest a little more and get better treatment. And in the 3 weeks that I've been here, this is the best my knee has felt since 2001 when I shattered my kneecap. Oh. Like this says I'm walking more. I'm not sitting as much. I feel more blood flow going through my knee. A lot of times Pamela asks me like, how's your knee feel? And I'll say, it feels dead. Like, there's no blood flow. It feels alive now.
Alive is good.
Alive is good. Sometimes the muscle soreness that comes along from some of the activities we're doing here aren't good. But ultimately, the two things that have been most like aha for me is one, the idea of move, excel, inspire. Like sometimes you hear things and you're like, oh man, like that's what I've been thinking. That's what I need to be doing. That's what I try to do with my team. That's
Yeah.
and that's the cool thing about being involved in athletics is every once in a while you find people who have similar ideas, similar values, similar philosophies. So the idea of like, okay, I'm not going to take care of myself just to take care of myself. Again, immigrant family, old school. Like maybe I'm not worth it. But if I can use that to then be a better dad, to be a better husband, to be a better coach, and then while I'm doing that, help inspire other people.
Yeah.
Now you're doing it for a greater good. Like, and that's where I don't coach to win a game. I don't coach to get a headline or, the internet article or whatever. You coach because when I was a kid, people in soccer helped me in my development. So if I can do that, like that connected with me. And that's one of the things I'm super grateful that I've had that opportunity to kind of reinforce my own value system and the value system of my program to say like, okay, hard work's important, but if you're just doing hard work to work hard, it's like, it's hard to maintain. If you're doing hard work for a greater good to help other people, that's where the magic happens.
Absolutely. You basically nailed our vision for Next Level, which has been transformed, basically life transformation through physical therapy, physical activity with a like-minded community of people who also want to get to the next level, because really you can't expect the maximum success for any kind of endeavor that you're in without the help of other people.
Right.
And there's so much to be gleaned from people who think like you, who have same values as you do, and really want to work hard, like you said, to push towards those things they want to get to.
Yeah.
And along the way, you're pulling people along with you.
Right.
Which is that's the beauty of what we try to do here.
Right. And we're fortunate our program has been working with Next Level for strength and conditioning. And the change I've seen in our student athletes is unbelievable.
Oh, I love that.
Where there was a kid today who bench pressed and said, I don't know how to bench press, and bench press today with, in her words, real weight on a real bar. And it's like,
oh, that's cool.
That's a kid who that might help her score goals next year. It might, but it will help 30-year-old her have the confidence to stay fit and to stay active. And that'll help that person become a better, whatever they are, partner, wife, mother, business owner, because they'll feel better about themselves. And the confidence that even though I haven't done it doesn't mean I can't do it. And that piece of it is like, and for me, that's the thing, like the most important job is who I allow in the door.
Yes.
Who I allow around my people. And what I have seen, the amount of care that Dr. Nick and Rafi provide our student athletes, it's like they honestly feel like a part of the coaching staff. And I feel like they've been here 5 years. It's been a month.
It's
crazy,
right?
Been a month. The kids are fitter.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable.
I love that. It's been an amazing opportunity to work with your girls too. I think what excited me most, I was talking to our coaches and our doctors, was just how motivated the girls were to get stronger and fitter. And that's coming from working with other club teams in the past where that wasn't the case. And it was almost at the point where I was like, I don't know why you're even here if you don't want to work hard.
Yeah.
And so I realized, I just seeing that difference in the mentality and the effort and attitude for us was like really exciting.
Yeah.
To me, to the point where I was like, oh my God, I want to be involved in this. Like it was contagious.
Yes.
But that's a testimony to how well you've managed your team and really, brought that team together, I think.
And I appreciate that. One of the things on the D3 level is there are some of the best schools in the country or Division III in athletics, and they're going to recruit nationally. And one of the things that I've kind of decided along the way is like, okay, I'm not going to get the same type of kid as a tier 1 academic institution. MIT is going to get a kid from California, probably a little bit easier than we are. So that's fine. but we're just going to make our kids better.
Mm.
So we're going to get our kids and we're going to make them better. Again, it's not about who you are at 17. It's about who you can become at 21.
Yeah.
So if we can develop that mentality where they're uber competitive, uber supportive, and love grinding, sometimes we got to manage that, because you have some kids who don't have an off button.
Right.
You just go and go and go
Absolutely,
and go. So a lot of times my job is to decompress and to make sure that they still remember what it's like to be a little 6-year-old kid who wants to go to soccer practice and hang out with their friends. And that's where happy cows make good cheese. Like it's got to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's the secret sauce, where the kids are having a great workout and then are saying like, damn, I can't believe it's 12:15. We wanted to go longer.
Right.
And it's like, I want to go longer.
That's
Like,
right.
I hated the weight room. I hated off season. When I was playing, like I just wanted to be on the field.
Yeah.
I just wanted to play. Like I didn't want to do strength and condition. I didn't want to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, these guys want more of it, where I have to say like, hey, if you're not feeling well, you can take a day off. They don't want to take days off.
Oh my gosh,
because they
that's so cool.
love not just the amount of work, the type of work, but it's also the enjoyment of doing the work.
Oh man, that's an amazing compliment. I'm just really, very blessed and grateful to be part of that. And I'm really excited to see how the team does this year and beyond as we get more involved with your program and other programs at MSU as well for the strength and conditioning needs. Coach Pat, for anyone out there who maybe a parent or a young soccer player is looking to consider MSU.
Yeah.
Is there a great way to get in touch with you or anything like that?
Yeah. So our website has all the information. If we're going to do, so every once in a while, we'll do an ID camp.
Mm-hmm.
We'll bring kids in and just kind of show you how we do our business, like what our practice looks like, sounds like, feels like. But our game schedule is up there.
Yeah.
All my contact information is up there.
Great.
Everybody's, the best part of the program is the players. And that's the one thing I'm always trying to like work on, like how to get the kids out there a little more front and center, because I'm not, I'm the middle-aged guy. Like I'm not the goal, right? The goal is these kids who are getting great grades and are really good soccer players and are having a blast. Like that's what, well, as I said earlier, like when I was a little kid, I knew who I looked up to. Mm-hmm. But I know who the student athletes are looking up to now. It's not me. But there's also, I would say that for if your kids are interested in any sport, like we offer 18 sports on campus. So going to a college football game on a Saturday afternoon is awesome. Mm-hmm. And for me growing up, I thought that happened at Notre Dame. But that was unattainable. But going to, our men's basketball team right now is having a great year. Our men's soccer team has always been excellent. Like there's a lot of really, really great stuff happening there. Unfortunately, we're a really well-kept secret, but it's awesome to get up there and see our different sports compete.
Yeah. Do you have programs through the women's soccer team where youth soccer players can sort of like hang out with a player for a day or anything like that? Or?
So when we're actively recruiting a player, we'll do that. Mm-hmm. But there are things we've been thinking about doing more clinics. Like cool. Our kids want to do that more. Our kids love being around and, younger players.
Oh, they do? Oh, that's so cool.
They love it. They love it. So camps and clinics, there's a couple things we're going to have in the works. Just want to make sure that we're doing it the right way. That's not, it's not a cheesy money grab, like that it actually has value, has merit, and that the marketplace needs it. You know what I mean? Like we don't want to just be, there's plenty of people taking money in the soccer right now. So we just want to make sure we're doing it right and we're going about things the right way.
Yeah. So Coach Pat, one other question I had was, and it might be hard for you as a coach to have an unbiased opinion, but a lot of our talks in our podcast about youth sports does center around the controversy of specialization. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering what your take is on that, on kids coming up through the ranks and how that might positively and or negatively affect them as they enter the college sphere.
So I'll tell you right now that the best freshmen we have this year, we had two players who are two of the best freshmen in this part of the country and both regional All-Americans. And they were both 3-sport athletes. And that you watch them play and they move differently than everybody else. They have better body control. They have better thoughts about how the game works. And it's not rare. It's really not. It's kind of that pendulum swinging back to me, where the idea of a kid who's playing 80 games a year and going through 1,000 practices, they might be overcoached. They might be a little bit robotic. They might get a little burnt out, where we have student athletes who are multi-sport kids who know how to compete. I love the kid who can play a team sport and an individual sport. Like, I think it's so, I didn't do it growing up, and it's a regret I have, but like, if you're going to swim and there's going to be a kid next to you, or you're going to wrestle and you're either going to pin that kid or be pinned, like putting yourself out there like that, like that's competition.
Yeah.
So the track kids, the swimmers, the wrestlers, I think that's so sick.
Yeah.
So sick. The majority of our better athletes, of our healthier kids, have been multi-sport kids.
Yeah.
And for me, that's got to be, as a parent, that's going to be decision one. I'm gonna put Patty in the best situation available to him to make sure that he's learning different things and figuring out different things to see what he loves now. It better be soccer, but no, I'm just kidding. but I want him to try to play different sports.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. And I was a really average basketball player growing up, but I enjoyed it. And I was a terrible baseball player. I couldn't hit a curveball for anything, but I love baseball.
Yeah.
Like those, I don't know. I think that's really good for development. It's really good. You get different coaches, different types of coaches.
Yeah.
Exposed to different people.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
You ever get to decompress not only your nervous system, but also your body, your physical musculoskeletal system from all the stress that you've acquired from playing a sport all year round.
Absolutely. So even for me, for like being a little kid, like I didn't find pressure, but when I was on the soccer field, I felt like I was one of the better players. And then you go play baseball and you're like, you're not. And like that'll take you down a peg. Like, I think that's good for humility a little bit.
Sure.
Like, so I think that's good. And you know, again, the landscape's changing, and you know, most of my peers, their kids are older and they're getting into that pull of, you know, does it become too much? And then are you playing too many sports at once? And it's hard to navigate, but I think it comes down to there is no recipe. Not every kid's the same. Not every family's the same. What works for one kid and one family in one situation isn't going to work forever. And I think one of your clients, Matt Turner, is a perfect example. Matt Turner path to becoming a starter on the U.S. men's national team is unlike anybody else in U.S. men's national team in the last 15 years. But it's worked because what Matt did and what Matt's family did worked for Matt.
Yeah.
And if he went the more quote unquote traditional route, it wouldn't have ended up better, right? You can't do better than where Matt Turner is right now. So that's where I think to each their own.
Yeah, for sure. Coach Pat, thank you so much for being on our podcast. I learned so much about you and from you, not only about the sport of soccer, but also just your expertise in how to coach and manage a team is beyond anything I knew. So I'm so grateful for this interview.
No, I appreciate it. There's a lot of stuff I pick up from I've stolen from you. That you don't. Is
that why I like this show so much?
Yeah. So not only the podcast, but also Pam telling me just different things you guys do here, and I'm like, man, these guys are smart. So
thank you.
I'm big on osmosis, like trying to pick up some of your smart, just breathing the air in here.
Well, now it's coming full circle, so I appreciate that about you as well.
You got it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, and thank you for listening. For anyone out there, we will have some show notes on how to get in touch with Coach Pat if you are a prospecting parent or soccer player. But until next time, have a great day.
Thanks so much for tuning into today's episode. It really does mean a lot to us. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, or comment if you got at least one or two helpful insights or takeaways to help you get to your next level.